They say a dog's bark is just noise, until it saves a life. It was a Tuesday afternoon, the kind of day that felt so normal it almost dared you to let your guard down. The sun was shining over Jefferson High School in the small town of Willow Creek, Texas. Kids were out on the grassy quad tossing footballs, laughing, and sharing TikToks on their phones. Inside the cafeteria, it smelled like sloppy joes, tater tots, and the unmistakable scent of overcooked green beans. A typical lunch hour as ordinary as they come, and then it happened. A bark. Not just any bark, sharp, powerful, a thunderclap that cut through the cafeteria like a fire alarm. Buddy, the German Shepherd K9, lunged forward, his paws skidded on the linoleum floor, claws scraping like nails on a chalkboard. He was locked in on a target, a 14-year-old boy named Noah, standing in the lunch line holding a plastic cup of water. Everything froze. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. The laughter, the chatter, the clatter of trays, all silenced in an instant. Noah's hand trembled. His friends sitting at a nearby table stared wide-eyed. Some kids even started filming, their phones already capturing a moment that none of them could explain. Buddy wasn't moving to play. He wasn't wagging his tail or looking for a treat. His fur stood on end, hackles raised like a wild wolf's, and a deep, guttural growl rumbled from his chest. His eyes were locked on Noah, but not on the boy himself, on the cup in his hand. Noah's voice barely came out, just a whisper. It's just water. But Buddy didn't back down. The tension was suffocating. Noah's lips quivered as the cup shook in his hand, a few drops of water spilling onto the floor. Buddy inched closer, nose twitching, his body coiled tight like a spring ready to snap. The air in the room seemed to thin out, like the entire cafeteria was holding its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. And then, Buddy leaped. With a sudden, forceful lunge, Buddy's snout smacked into Noah's hand, knocking the cup to the ground. The water splashed across the floor, pooling in a small, innocent-looking puddle. A few students gasped. Someone in the back whispered, "What the heck is going on?" Officer Mike Dawson, Buddy's handler and a seasoned cop with 15 years, on the force, burst into the cafeteria. His heart raced. Buddy never acted like this without a reason. Never. "Buddy." "What's wrong, boy?" Buddy didn't even glance at his handler. His nose was glued to the puddle, sniffing with sharp, desperate breaths. Then came a bark, louder this time, insistent, like a siren wailing in the middle of a quiet night. Dawson dropped to one knee, sniffing the air, but all he smelled was cafeteria food and a faint trace of bleach from the janitor's cart in the corner. "What are you picking up, Buddy?" The dog let out another bark and stepped back, staring at the water like it was something dangerous, something deadly. Kids were whispering now, nervous energy rippling across the room. Teachers were stepping in, telling students to stay calm, but their own voices were shaky. The principal, Mr. Henderson, a man known for his calm demeanor and pressed shirts, rushed in with a confused look on his face. "Is there a problem here, Officer Dawson?" Before Dawson could answer, Buddy gave a sharp bark again. Dawson's stomach sank. "Everyone, step away from the cafeteria," he shouted. "Out now! This is a safety concern." The teachers exchanged glances, hesitant, but something in Dawson's tone, mixed with Buddy's urgent behavior, snapped them into action. They began herding students toward the exits, leaving behind half-eaten lunches, backpacks, and phones, buzzing on the tables. The cafeteria emptied out in minutes, leaving behind a strange humming silence broken only by Buddy's low growl. As Dawson inspected the water more closely, something clicked in the back of his mind. A memory, a smell from a crime scene years ago, metallic, bitter, wrong. It wasn't just water, it was something more. His pulse spiked. He pulled out his radio, voice tight with urgency. "Dispatch, we have a possible contamination at Jefferson High. I repeat, possible contamination. Send the hazmat team now." If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to hit subscribe on Heroes for Animals for more real-life stories of bravery and loyalty from the animal heroes who walk among us. Join the community, and let's celebrate the animals who save lives every day. Back in the cafeteria, Dawson watched Buddy. The dog sat down but didn't relax. His body remained rigid, ears perked, tail still, eyes locked on the spilled water as if it might attack at any moment. Dawson felt a chill creep down his spine. This wasn't a false alarm. Buddy knew something they didn't. A teacher approached, her voice trembling. "What's happening? Should we be worried?" Dawson nodded grimly. "I don't know yet, but if Buddy says there's danger, we listen. We always listen." Buddy's nose twitched again and he let out a low warning growl. Dawson watched him, knowing full well what that sound meant. Danger wasn't just in the water. It was close. Someone had put it there. Someone who wasn't supposed to, and that someone might still be inside the school. The quiet murmurs in the hallways turned into a nervous buzz as parents began getting alerts on their phones. "Emergency at Jefferson High. Please remain calm. Students safe. Await further instructions." Outside, sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. A fire truck, an ambulance, police cruisers pulling up with flashing lights. Parents began to gather near the front gates, their faces pale, clutching, their phones like lifelines. Back inside, Dawson's eyes scanned the cafeteria. Something was missing. No. Someone. Noah. The boy had vanished. Dawson's stomach twisted. He turned to Buddy. The dog was already on his feet, ears pointed, nose sniffing the air with sharp, deliberate huffs. Buddy gave a sharp bark and bolted toward the far side of the room, where the doors to the maintenance hall stood ajar. Dawson's heart raced. He sprinted after Buddy, feeling the weight of every parent outside, every student still waiting in classrooms, every unknown lurking in the shadows. Because when a canine like Buddy barks, you don't ignore it. You follow. And pray you're not too late. The school hallways were a maze of echoes, footsteps bouncing off lockers, the low murmur of worried teachers, and the sharp, steady barks of Buddy, the German Shepherd K9, cutting through the chaos like a beacon. Officer Mike Dawson sprinted after him, his boots pounding against the polished tile floor. Buddy's nose hovered inches above the ground, sniffing with laser focus, weaving through the lingering scent of cafeteria food and teenage cologne. Dawson's pulse raced. Where was Noah? The boy had been right there, standing in the cafeteria, line just minutes ago, holding that cup of water. Now he'd vanished, swallowed up by the school's endless corridors. Dawson couldn't shake the sinking feeling in his gut that something terrible was about to unfold. Buddy's bark rang, out again, loud and urgent, as he skidded to a stop at a side door marked maintenance. The door was slightly ajar, swinging on its hinges. Dawson approached cautiously, hand hovering over his holstered gun. He pushed the door open, and the smell hit him, something sharp, metallic, mixed with the faint, sterile scent of cleaning. Supplies. "Buddy, heel," he whispered. Buddy hesitated, then trotted back to Dawson's side, body tense, ears perked, waiting for the next cue. Inside, the room was a mess. Buckets, mops, and a stack of cleaning rags sat haphazardly against the walls. But what caught Dawson's eye was a black duffel bag shoved half under a utility sink. The zipper was open just enough to reveal the glint of glass. Bottles. Lots of them. Dawson crouched down, careful not to touch anything. Labels peeked out. Industrial solvent, flammable, toxic. His breath caught in his throat. This wasn't just cleaning supplies. This was an arsenal. "Buddy," he whispered, and the dog moved in, sniffing the bag, then the floor, then the air, his body tight with focus. His nose twitched, his breathing quickened. He was onto something. Dawson's radio crackled to life. "Officer Dawson, status update." He pressed the button, voice steady despite the knot in his chest. "We've got a potential hazardous materials situation in the maintenance room. Send hazmat backup. And we're missing a student. Noah Carter. Caucasian male, 14, last seen, in the cafeteria." The words tasted bitter in his mouth. Buddy barked again, sharp, demanding, and bolted through the room toward a back exit that led to the outdoor loading dock. Dawson followed, boots thudding on the concrete, the door slamming open as they burst into the warm Texas afternoon. The loading dock was empty, except for a few delivery pallets and a dumpster humming with flies. Buddy's nose hit the ground, again, tracing an invisible line. He zigzagged toward the dumpster, sniffed around it, then abruptly turned and barked toward the far fence line. That's when Dawson saw it. Just a flash. A figure, hoodie up, slipping behind a cluster of storage, sheds at the far end of the property. "Hold it!" Dawson shouted, adrenaline spiking as he broke into a sprint. Buddy needed no command. He shot forward, muscles stretching, his bark cutting through the air like a blade. Dawson's boots pounded the dirt as he followed, dodging debris and patches of dry grass. The figure darted behind a shed, gone. Buddy reached the spot first, nose pressed to the ground, tail stiff. He barked once, sharp. Dawson rounded the corner and skidded to a halt. There, crouched behind a stack of old desks, was Noah. His face was pale, sweaty, and his eyes wide with fear. "Noah," Dawson breathed, relief crashing over him. "You okay, kid?" Noah nodded shakily, but his hands trembled. His breath came in sharp, ragged bursts. I didn't know what to do," Noah stammered. "He told me not to say anything." Dawson crouched down, eyes narrowing. "Who, son? Who told you that?" Before Noah could answer, Buddy let out a low, guttural growl. Dawson turned his head just in time to catch movement. Another figure, emerging from behind a shed, hands in his pockets, walking like he owned the place. A teenage boy, thin, wearing a hoodie pulled up tight, his sneakers scuffed and stained. "Ethan Marks," Dawson muttered under his breath. The kid froze, eyes darting between Buddy and Dawson. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then Ethan bolted. "Stop!" Dawson yelled. But Ethan was already moving, fast and reckless. Buddy launched like a missile. His paws hit the ground with rapid-fire rhythm, his body a blur of black and tan. Ethan cut left, trying to lose the dog between the sheds, but Buddy was quicker, smarter. He anticipated the turn, adjusted his path, and tackled Ethan clean. One powerful leap, a snap of his jaws just close enough to warn, but not to bite. Ethan hit the ground hard, face down, Buddy's growl in his ear. Dawson sprinted up, panting. "Hand on his gun. Stay down, kid." Ethan froze, chest heaving. "Get the dog off me," he shouted, voice cracking. Dawson approached cautiously, hand steady on his weapon. "Buddy, back." Buddy stepped back, teeth bared, eyes locked on Ethan. Dawson cuffed the kid, patting him down. Nothing in the pockets, just a crumpled energy bar wrapper and a folded piece of paper. He unfolded it and frowned. It was a crude diagram of the school's water system. "What's this, Ethan?" "I don't know," Ethan muttered, but his voice was shaky, his eyes darting everywhere but at Dawson. Buddy let out a short bark, as if to say, "He's lying." Dawson narrowed his eyes. "Talk to me, son. Who told you not to say anything? What's going on here?" Ethan swallowed hard. "It wasn't me. I didn't do anything. I saw a guy last night. He was messing with the water tank by the cafeteria. I swear." Buddy's ears perked up. Dawson felt his stomach flip. "A guy? Describe him." Ethan hesitated, biting his lip. Tall, skinny, hoodie, and he had a tattoo on his wrist, a snake coiled around a knife. Dawson's blood ran cold. That tattoo. He'd seen it before, years ago, in a case that never quite closed. He looked at Buddy, whose stance had shifted, tense, alert, ready. Dawson's gut screamed that this wasn't just a high school prank. No, this was something bigger. As he processed the information, the radio on his shoulder crackled again. "Officer Dawson, be advised. We've got parents showing up at the front, gates demanding answers. Principal Henderson is requesting an update." Dawson exhaled slowly, the weight of the moment settling in. "Tell them we're doing everything we can. And get me back up, now." He glanced down at Buddy, who was staring, back at him as if reading his mind. Yeah, Dawson thought. This is just the beginning. The late afternoon sun burned low over Willow Creek, casting long shadows across the high school parking lot. Sirens had faded, but the tension hung in the air like static before a storm. Parents crowded near the gates, their faces tight with worry, voices raised in anxious questions that no one could fully answer yet. Officers kept a perimeter, holding them back with calm but firm hands, repeating the same words over and over. "We're working on it. Please, stay calm, we'll update you soon." Inside the building, it was quieter but no less intense. Officer Mike Dawson paced the hallway outside the principal's office, phone in hand, mind racing. Buddy sat close by, eyes sharp, ears twitching at every sound. The dog's body was a study in tension, like a coiled spring ready to snap. Dawson hung up the call he'd just finished. It had been with the forensic lab. They were sending a hazmat unit to analyze the chemicals found in the maintenance room. He exhaled, glancing down at Buddy. "Good boy," he murmured. Buddy's tail gave a quick, stiff wag, but his eyes never left the door across the hall. Inside, Principal Henderson and a group of teachers were huddled, voices low and nervous. Dawson could feel the weight of their stares through the glass window, but he wasn't ready to explain everything. Not yet, not until he had a clearer picture. Ethan Marks sat on a chair just outside the office, cuffed, shoulders hunched, eyes darting between the floor and the walls like a trapped animal. His hoodie was soaked with sweat, and his knee bounced uncontrollably. Dawson crouched in front of him. "Ethan," he said, voice calm but firm, "listen to me. I don't think you're the mastermind here, but you saw something. And if you don't talk, more kids could get hurt. You understand that?" Ethan swallowed, Adam's apple bobbing. "I didn't mean for any of this," he mumbled, voice barely a whisper. "Start at the beginning," Dawson said. "You said you saw a guy, the one with the snake tattoo. When? Where?" Ethan fidgeted, voice breaking. "Last night. I was hanging out by the bleachers, after practice. I saw this guy by the side door near the cafeteria. He had a hoodie, dark jeans. He was messing with something near the water pipes." Dawson's pulse quickened. "The water pipes?" Ethan nodded, rubbing his wrists where the cuffs bit into his skin. "Yeah, like, he had tools, and a backpack. I thought maybe he was a janitor or something, but then I saw the tattoo on his wrist. A snake wrapped around a knife." Dawson felt a chill crawl up his spine. That tattoo wasn't random. It matched a description from a case file buried deep in his memory. He glanced at Buddy, who had shifted forward, muscles tense, ears locked onto the conversation like a radar dish. "You're doing good, Ethan," Dawson said. "Did you see where he went after that?" Ethan shook his head. "No. He left through the side exit by the dumpsters. I didn't follow him. I didn't think it mattered. I swear I didn't know he was doing anything dangerous." Dawson stood, tension coiling in his chest. He looked down at Buddy, who was now pacing in tight circles, nose low to the floor, sniffing like a bloodhound on a hot trail. "All right, Buddy, let's see what you can find." They moved together, officer and dog, partners in sync. Dawson unclipped the leash, giving Buddy the freedom to lead. The dog's tail stiffened, his breathing sharpened, and he took off down the hall, weaving between the lockers and open classroom doors. They reached the side door near the cafeteria, the one Ethan had mentioned. Buddy paused, nose pressed to the seam, then gave a sharp bark and scratched at the frame. Dawson pushed it open. Outside, the air smelled of cut grass, diesel fumes from a nearby bus, and the faint, bitter tang of something chemical. Buddy veered left toward the dumpsters, sniffing along the asphalt. His body was tense, head low, muscles rippling under his coat. Then he stopped dead, nose down. A low, guttural growl rumbled from deep in his chest. Dawson crouched, scanning the area. And there it was, tucked under the lip of the dumpster, almost hidden from sight. A small, clear plastic bag with a label that made his stomach turn. Corrosive, toxic, industrial solvent. He carefully picked it up, holding it by the edges, heart racing. This wasn't some kid's prank. This was something planned. Precise. Buddy barked once, sharp, alert. Dawson's radio crackled. "Officer Dawson, hazmat team en route. Estimated 10 minutes. He pressed the button. "Copy that. We've got evidence of chemical tampering. Possible connection to water supply. Keep parents back. This is bigger than it looks." The words tasted like metal in his mouth. Bigger than it looks. Buddy suddenly tensed, spinning toward the parking lot. Dawson followed his gaze. A man, tall, slim, hoodie up, was walking fast, cutting across the lot, head down, hands jammed into his pockets. Dawson's breath caught. "Buddy, on him, Buddy," surged forward, barking with a ferocity that turned heads. The man froze for a heartbeat, then bolted, weaving through parked cars. Dawson sprinted after them, boots slamming the pavement. "Stop! Police!" The man didn't stop. He sprinted, toward the back of the lot, toward an old pickup idling by the fence line. Dawson's heart raced. This wasn't random. This was an escape plan. Buddy closed the gap, powerful legs eating the distance. Just as the man reached for the pickup's door, Buddy launched. His front paws hit the man square in the back, sending him sprawling onto the asphalt. Dawson closed in, gun drawn, voice sharp. "Don't move." The man lay still, face pressed to the ground, breathing hard. Buddy stood over him, teeth bared, a low, steady growl rumbling in his throat. Dawson approached, breath ragged, adrenaline surging. He cuffed the man, flipping him over, and froze. The tattoo. A snake coiled around a knife inked on the man's wrist, just like Ethan had described. "Who are you?" Dawson demanded. The man smirked, blood trickling from a split lip. "Just the guy making sure your school stays clean." Dawson's stomach dropped. The word clean echoed in his head, sinister and cold. Buddy stood next to him, ears pinned back, as if he felt it too. This wasn't over. Not even close. The squad cars lined up in front of Jefferson High like a barricade, blue and red lights casting long shadows across the school's brick facade. The late afternoon sun had started to dip, turning the sky a deep orange, but no one was going home yet. Not by a long shot. Inside the main office, Officer Mike Dawson rubbed a hand down his face, the stubble on his jaw scraping like sandpaper. His shirt clung to his back with sweat, his adrenaline still running hot from the chase. Across from him sat the man they'd tackled in the parking lot, skinny, mid-30s, hoodie half-zipped to reveal that snake and knife tattoo coiled on his wrist. He wasn't saying much, just smirking like this was all some big joke. Dawson leaned forward, voice low but steady. "Tell me who you're working for." The man didn't flinch, just stared back with eyes that were too calm for someone cuffed to a chair. "You're not going to get what you're looking for, officer." Buddy let out a low growl from his spot beside Dawson's chair. The dog's ears twitched, body tight, eyes locked on the suspect like a laser sight. The man's smirk faltered, just for a second, when he caught the glint in Buddy's eyes. Dawson didn't miss it. He tapped his pen against the notepad on the desk. "You think this is funny? We've got a school full of kids who almost drank whatever chemical cocktail you and your buddies were cooking up. This isn't small-time vandalism. This is attempted murder." The man tilted his head, eyebrows raised like he was impressed. Big words for a small-town cop. Before Dawson could respond, the door swung open and Principal Henderson stepped in, pale as a ghost, his hands trembling as he held out a printed email. "Mike, you need to see this." Dawson took the paper, scanning it quickly. The header was from a company called Clear Tech Solutions. The subject line read, "Confidential Phase 2 Implementation Timeline." His stomach clenched. Phase 2? Buddy let out a sharp bark, like a gunshot in the tight room. The suspect stiffened, eyes flicking toward the dog, and that was all the tell. Dawson needed. "Clear Tech," he muttered under his breath. He glanced at Buddy, who sat up straighter, tail thumping once. The dog could sense it. The pieces were clicking into place. Principal Henderson's voice cracked. "They're the company that installed the new water filtration system last month. Said it was part of a grant to modernize the school's plumbing. They sent techs here last week for maintenance." Dawson's mind raced. Maintenance. That's how they got in. "Who signed off on it?" he asked. Henderson swallowed, shifting awkwardly. "I did. The board approved it. It seemed harmless." Dawson clenched his jaw. "Harmless. Yeah, sure." He turned back to the man in the chair. "You were part of that team, weren't you? The maintenance crew?" The man's lips twisted into a grin, but he didn't answer. Buddy growled again, stepping forward. Dawson didn't stop him. Let the dog apply some pressure. "Listen, I'm done playing games," Dawson said, voice firm. "You're gonna tell me who's running this operation, or I'll see to it you spend the next 20 years in a federal prison for domestic terrorism." That word, terrorism, landed like a brick. The man's smile faded, his eyes darting toward the floor. Buddy's tail flicked, sensing the shift. Before the man could speak, Dawson's radio crackled. "Dawson, it's Sanchez. You need to come. Outside now." Dawson grabbed the radio. "What's going on?" "Media's here. And parents. Lots of parents." Dawson exhaled hard, shooting a look at the principal. "Stay with him. Don't let him out of your sight." Buddy followed Dawson. Outside, where the parking lot was a sea of people. Reporters shoved microphones forward, shouting questions. Parents huddled in small groups, clutching their kids, their faces pale and pinched. "Officer Dawson, is it true the water was poisoned? Were there chemicals in the school system? Is it safe for our children to come back?" Dawson raised his hands, trying to calm the chaos. "Folks, listen up. We're still investigating, but I can tell you this. Buddy here." He gestured to the German shepherd sitting tall at his side, chest out, ears forward. "Buddy is the reason your kids are safe tonight. Without him, we might be telling a very different story." A ripple went through the crowd. Some parents clapped, others wiped tears from their eyes. A woman stepped forward, holding a little girl's hand. She looked at Buddy like he was a miracle on 4 legs. "Thank you," she whispered, voice shaking. "Thank you for saving my child." Buddy tilted his head, tail wagging once, as if he understood. Dawson cleared his throat, emotions tightening. His chest, "We're not done yet. This is bigger than just this school. We're working to make sure your kids are safe, every single one of them." As the crowd began to settle, Dawson's phone buzzed. A text from Sanchez. "Check the janitor's office. Files in the cabinet. Could be important." Dawson didn't hesitate. He turned to Buddy. "Come on, boy. Let's finish this." They made their way back inside, cutting through the still buzzing hallways. Buddy's nails clicked on the tile as he trotted ahead, nose twitching. They reached the janitor's office, a small, cluttered room that smelled like floor wax and old coffee. Dawson rifled through the cabinet Sanchez had mentioned. Inside were files, neatly stacked. Contracts, invoices, technical diagrams. And, buried in the middle, one sheet that made his blood run cold. A map. Not just of Jefferson High, but of other schools. 20, maybe more. Red dots marked locations across the state. At the top, stamped in bold black letters, Project Clean Slate. Dawson stared at it, heart hammering in his chest. Buddy let out a low, uneasy whine. This wasn't just about Willow Creek. It was bigger. Much bigger. The sound of Buddy's paws hitting the linoleum echoed down the empty school hallway, a sharp, steady rhythm that matched the pounding in Officer Mike Dawson's chest. The map from the janitor's office burned in his hands, a terrible weight that seemed to grow heavier with every step. Red dots marked school after school, scattered like pinpricks across the state. It wasn't just Jefferson High. It wasn't even just Willow Creek. This was bigger, way bigger. Buddy stopped suddenly, head snapping toward a nearby classroom door, his body tensed, nose twitching. Dawson froze, heart racing. He trusted Buddy's instincts. He always had. The dog growled low, a sound that rumbled in the pit of Dawson's gut like a warning bell. "Easy, boy," he whispered, moving closer. He pushed the door open slowly, scanning the room. Desks, chairs, posters on the walls, nothing unusual. But Buddy's nose was glued to the floor, following, an invisible trail weaving between the desks. His tail stiffened as he reached the back corner, where an old cabinet sat half open. Dawson approached cautiously. Inside, a laptop hummed quietly, its screen still glowing. Files filled the desktop, their names bold and chilling. Chemical inventory, distribution schedule phase, 2 rollout. He stared at the files, bile rising in his throat. Buddy let out a sharp bark, snapping him out of it. Dawson grabbed the laptop, tucking it under his arm, and looked down at the dog. "Let's go." As they moved back into the hallway, his radio crackled to life. "Dawson, we've got movement at Clear Tech headquarters. Unmarked vans, lots of them. They're loading up crates, leaving fast." Dawson swore under his breath. They were running. He clicked the mic. "Tell them to hold. I'm on my way." Turning to Buddy, he spoke in a low, urgent tone. "Come on, boy. We're not letting them get away." They exited the school, the afternoon light now fading into early evening. The parking lot was still crowded, but Dawson's focus was razor-sharp. He threw the laptop into the front seat of his cruiser, Buddy hopping in behind him. The engine roared to life, tires squealing as they peeled out onto the main road. The drive to Cleartech's headquarters was a blur of flashing lights and pounding adrenaline. The building sat in a corporate park on the outskirts of town, a modern glass and steel structure with sleek logos and manicured lawns. But tonight, it looked like a crime scene waiting to happen. Dawson pulled up just as two vans were pulling away from the loading dock. Men in dark clothing hustled crates into the vehicles, moving fast and deliberate. He radioed in, voice tight. "This is Dawson. I've got visual on Cleartech. Suspects are in motion. Request immediate backup." Without waiting for a reply, he stepped out, Buddy at his side. "Stay close," he muttered, and they approached the building, moving through the shadows. The loading dock smelled of oil and sweat and something sharper, chemicals. Buddy's nose twitched, his breath quickening. Dawson's stomach turned. He peered into the warehouse through a side window. Inside, it was chaos. Workers were shoving papers into shredders, smashing hard drives with hammers, packing boxes onto pallets. A man in a suit barked orders, waving his arms wildly. Dawson recognized him instantly. Barlow, the school's maintenance guy, the one who had signed off on the Cleartech deal. Dawson's pulse spiked. He grabbed his radio. "Suspect Barlow located at Cleartech HQ. Looks like he's leading the cleanup." Buddy growled low. Dawson looked down and followed the dog's gaze. Near the back of the loading dock, half hidden under a tarp, sat a crate. The label on the side read, "Hazardous material. Industrial solvents. Handle with extreme care." Dawson felt his chest tighten. They were trying to erase the evidence, wipe the slate clean, just like the name of the project. Not on his watch. He moved in closer, slipping through the side door, Buddy glued to his hip. The noise inside was deafening. Shredders, machinery, men yelling. Dawson raised his voice, firm and clear. "Police, hands where I can see them." For a moment, time froze. Heads snapped toward him. The man in the suit, Barlow, locked eyes with Dawson. His face twisted in shock, then fury. "Get him!" Barlow shouted. A man lunged at Dawson. Buddy barked, launched forward, and clamped, down on the attacker's arm, dragging him to the ground with a snarl. Dawson moved fast, cuffing the man while Buddy held him down. "Good boy," Dawson muttered, heart racing. Chaos erupted. Another man ran for the exit. Dawson's instincts kicked in. He chased, Buddy hot on his heels. The suspect shoved over, a stack of boxes trying to block their path. But Buddy weaved through, relentless. Dawson tackled the man near the door, pinning him down as Buddy guarded the scene. Backup arrived in a blur. Uniforms pouring in, weapons drawn. The warehouse was swarmed. Dawson cuffed Barlow himself, the man's hands trembling, his face pale. "You're done," Dawson said flatly. Barlow glared at him, lips curling into a sneer. "You have no idea what you've just stumbled into." Dawson ignored him, adrenaline still coursing. He turned to Buddy, who was panting but alert, eyes bright. Dawson scratched the dog behind the ears, feeling a rush of gratitude. "You saved a lot of lives today, partner." As they walked outside, Dawson caught sight of the crates being loaded into evidence trucks, the files being bagged and tagged. It wasn't over, not yet. But they had struck a blow, hard and fast. The sun was almost gone now, the first stars pricking the sky. Buddy sat next to Dawson as he leaned against the cruiser, the weight of the day pressing in. For a moment, the two of them just breathed side by side. The job wasn't finished. The map in the janitor's office still haunted Dawson, those red dots, all those schools. But they had stopped one part of it tonight. They'd follow the trail piece by piece, and as long as they had each other, they wouldn't stop. Not until every kid was safe. The small town of Willow Creek felt different. That morning, like a storm had passed, but the air still hummed with tension. The news vans had set up outside Cleartech's glass headquarters. Cameras zoomed in on the crates being wheeled out by officers in hazmat suits. Headlines flashed across the bottom of TV screens. Chemical sabotage plot foiled at local school. And K-9 officer saves dozens in water crisis. Inside the police station, Officer Mike Dawson sat at a cluttered desk, staring at a whiteboard filled with names, lines, and question marks. At the center was one word in bold black letters: clean. Slate. The evidence told a chilling story. Cleartech had been more than a company. They were a front. Their so-called filtration systems were being installed in schools across the state, each one laced with chemicals that could have sickened, even killed, hundreds of students. Barlow was just a cog in the machine. The man with the snake tattoo, Travis Dean as it turned out, was an enforcer, a fixer sent to keep the operation on track. And the worst part? They weren't working alone. Dawson leaned back in his chair, exhaustion settling deep in his bones. Buddy sat beside him, head resting on Dawson's boot, those dark, loyal eyes watching him like always. The German shepherd's tail thumped softly, as if to say, "We're not done yet, partner." Dawson glanced at the photo on his desk, a picture of the kids at Jefferson High running across the soccer field. Buddy in the background, tail wagging, tongue lolling out in a big, goofy grin. It wasn't just a dog. Buddy was a hero. A knock at the door pulled Dawson from his thoughts. Chief Ruiz stepped in, holding a folder thick with reports. "FBI's taking the lead from here," Ruiz said. His voice was steady, but his eyes were tired. "They're digging into Cleartech's funding, offshore accounts, shell companies, the whole 9 yards. This thing's a spiderweb." Dawson nodded slowly. It didn't surprise him. The deeper they dug, the more rot they found. "Good work, Dawson," Ruiz added. He looked down at Buddy, who sat up straighter, ears perked. "Both of you." Buddy let out a soft bark, almost like a thank you. That afternoon, Dawson and Buddy returned to Jefferson High. The principal had invited them to an assembly in the gym. Parents, teachers, and kids packed the bleachers, the weight of what had almost happened hanging thick in the air. As they walked in, the crowd erupted in applause. It wasn't for Dawson, it was for Buddy. The dog's tail wagged furiously, his ears swiveling to catch every sound, but he stayed close to Dawson's side, humble as ever. Kids rushed forward, their voices bubbling with excitement. "Can I pet him? Is it true he saved the school? He's the coolest dog ever." Dawson smiled, crouching next to Buddy as the kids reached out to touch his fur. Buddy's eyes softened, his tail wagging like crazy, and for a moment the weight of everything lifted. Principal Henderson stepped up to the microphone, clearing his throat. "Today we honor a true hero," he said, voice thick with emotion. "Buddy, our K-9 officer, and Officer Dawson risked their lives to protect our children. They uncovered a plot that could have hurt so many. We owe them our deepest gratitude." The applause swelled, echoing off the walls of the gym. Dawson felt a lump in his throat, swallowing hard as he glanced down at Buddy, who tilted his head as if asking, "What's all the fuss about?" When the crowd settled, Henderson gestured for Dawson to speak. Dawson approached the mic, feeling every pair of eyes in the room lock onto him. He cleared his throat, gripping the podium tighter than he realized. "Look," he began, his voice steady but low. "I don't have a fancy speech. I'm just a cop doing my job. Buddy's the real hero here. He's the reason we caught this, in time. He's the reason your kids are safe." He paused, looking out at the sea of parents and students. Some had tears in their eyes. Others held their kids tighter. "But let me tell you something," Dawson continued. "Buddy's a dog, yeah. But he listened to his instincts. He knew something wasn't right, and he acted. Sometimes that's what it takes. A little instinct, a little courage, and someone willing to act when it matters most." He took a breath, heart heavy with the truth. "There are bad people out there," he said. "People who will put profit over lives, who will take shortcuts, who won't care if innocent kids get hurt. But there are also good people, people who will stand up, fight back, and make sure the right thing gets done." He looked down at Buddy, who wagged his tail like he understood every word. "We all have a job to do. and I'm proud to do mine, with Buddy by my side. The applause was deafening. After the assembly, as the crowd dispersed, Dawson stood outside with Buddy, watching the sunset bleed across the sky in streaks of pink and gold. The air smelled fresh, like rain had just passed, washing away the worst of the storm. Parents came up one by one, shaking his hand, thanking him, petting Buddy. Kids hugged the dog, some even whispering secrets into his ear like he was their protector. Dawson let it all wash over him, the gratitude, the relief, the love. When the crowd finally thinned, he crouched down and scratched Buddy behind the ears, the dog leaning into the touch, eyes half closed. "We did good, boy," Dawson murmured. "But I've got a feeling this isn't the end." Buddy's ears perked up at that as if he agreed, and deep down Dawson knew it too, because there's always another storm on the horizon, but when it comes, they'll be ready, together. Thank you for sticking with us through this story. It's been a journey of courage, loyalty, and the fight for what's right, because sometimes a dog's bark is the only alarm you need. Now we'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had a moment where your instincts, or your dogs, saved the day? How did it feel, and what did you learn from it? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Heroes for Animals for more inspiring stories of the animals who stand by us when we need them most. Stay safe out there.